Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 30th TouchDesigner Roundtable, the XXX edition. Yeah, don't get your hopes up. The XXX is strictly Latin numbers. There's no X-rated content coming now. Yeah, thank you for making the way out here into the further regions of Berlin to the Spatial Media Lab. Thank you, Spatial Media Lab, for having us. The Spatial Media Lab is a Verein that got founded end of last year, beginning of this year. And quite at the core of this Verein are Timo and Andrew. And they're going to explain us now what the Spatial Media Lab is about. I mean, apart from that, we're being in their wonderful spaces here. Please. Should they keep the microphone? Okay, kriegt er nicht.
Yeah, warm welcome to all of you here in our lab. I mean, Stefan is kind of, he's also part of it, as Wieland is, and some other people here are already part of Spatial Media Lab, also funding members. And yeah, we want to quickly tell you how this came about and why we saw the need of creating a Verein.
So in this presentation, we're going to go over 3 points. First is like the conception. How did we get here? What was the idea behind this? The construction, so how did we fulfill our vision and how do we continue to do so? And the community, which is what this is all about. It's how you can get involved and participate with us. So, starting with conception. In 2017, Timo and I met at Tech Open Air, and we just saw this demo for wave-field synthesis from Fraunhofer, and we said, wow, this demo was really not so good. I think that we could probably do better. And from there, it started as a Stammtisch. We were just meeting with a couple other people that were there at the same time and said basically the same thing with us. And we kept talking about it. I had to go back to the US because I was doing my post-graduation Euro trip thing. And then I said, okay, I'm going to move to Berlin. So as soon as I get back, Timo's like, hey, there's this spatial audio event, come by, and then I'm going to tell you some cool news. I get there, hey, we're doing a concert at the planetarium in Prenzlauer Berg. So yeah, come, let's get started. We're going to make everything 3D audio. Cool. So that was in 2018, already 1 year after this idea came about. And so we decided, okay, we need to do something with this because we've already made a proof of concept. We held this concert. It got a lot of great reviews. People really liked it. And all the planetarium people are like, this is the best the planetarium has sounded. So, okay, we make all the necessary things. Write a vision, make a website, so on and so forth. So the key problem that we identified is that there seems to be kind of this flow of information where the scientists and researchers are working in academia or in their bubble, and eventually engineers find some of this information and find a way to apply it, and then down the road, eventually the artists get it. And they're so far removed from the actual concept or theory of whatever it is. It doesn't have to be just about spatial media. This can be about anything, right? By the time that the artists are utilizing it, they're so divorced from the actual concept of what's going on that a lot of times it's very inconvenient, it's cumbersome, it's confusing, it's not clear, it's not intuitive, it's not user-friendly. And they have no way to communicate this back up the pipeline and say, hey, come on, like, let's make this better. And they just have to wait for somebody else to step in and solve this problem. So we created the Spatial Media Lab. We want to be a hub for all of these different people to sit down together and talk about how to make spatial media better. How can this be improved, sound better, look better, and what needs to be done to do so? Because there's a lot of resources that are out there, but maybe the artists can't change the code in the open source plugin to solve the problem that they have, even though it's totally available, right? And that's where we need developers and we need the communication with the engineers as well to ultimately reach the audiences, right?
Yeah, and so we try to put that into fancy words because we learned that it's not just about the idea having it, doing something, but you also need to talk about it, obviously. And so our mission and vision we came up with is that we are here to make spatial media easy to create, open to explore, and greater to enjoy. We're connecting art, science, and engineering by building bridges between the experts in these fields. And our community exists to build and share its knowledge, all open source to the core. So that's kind of our principle in the beginning, where we try to stick and fill this also with action. And this action is coming here like with the construction of this thing. Like, how do we fulfill this vision? Andrew already talked about this first thing where we did the show in the planetarium, where it was like, okay, we are onto something, we can do something, okay, cool. And then we did another show on our own, also at the planetarium at 2020. And 2021, we created an open source head tracker. I mean, technically we did not create it, but we found someone who helped us creating it or build it for us, all open source. Hello, Kai. And so we have now an open source, open hardware, open firmware device. You can just put on your headphones and do head track binaural audio. 2022, we helped Carolina Eick also in the planetarium with a concert, and also produce an album with her, and try to find a good pipeline to get this into Dolby Atmos, so you can also release that. So again, like helping artists to work in this field, and then helping them finding ways to bring it to people. And yeah, last year finally, after we did another concert as well where we helped Discovery Zone, we founded this fine, and we also found this headquarter where you are actually sitting in right now, and we are under heavy construction, so you might see it, and behind the closed doors there's even more construction going on, but yeah, we're also really happy to show you the chaos we pushed in there later, maybe. And we also did another cool thing last year, and together with also other people, Mickey and Stefan, and Josef, and I'm forgetting probably someone. But we did with Mozilla together at the Alte Münze interactive art piece that's called Reclaim Wonder. And we also have a little video documentation later we want to show you.
So now just some photo documentation of these experiences that we've made. So again, this 2018 concert in the planetarium. This is while Peter Kern was performing. This was the concert that we were able to produce ourselves with Jan Wagner and Tobias Preissig. Again, these photos are just like oftentimes just in a dark planetarium room, right? You don't get the full experience, obviously. This is the open source head tracker. There's obviously a 3D rendering of it, but we have a couple here, so if you're interested at all, we can show them to you. This is the Carolina Eick concert from behind the desk. And Discovery Zone. Founding of the Verein. Some familiar faces. And Reclaim Wonder. And we don't need to play this because this is just a video of the space you're in right now. So not helpful, right? So we'll move on. So now on to the community. How can you get involved? How can you help grow this thing that we have here and help us make more dust? So we're often asked, why a Verein? Why not a GbR? Why not a GmbH? Whatever, right? And there's three main reasons for this. Community, this is a democratic community, and no one person owns what we make. That's very important to us. And because no one owns it, we want to make all of that open source. We want to make it available. Again, we want to help make spatial media easier for everybody and better at the end. So we don't want to hoard this information and keep it to ourselves. And creativity, because we want to work on projects that we believe in as well. So now what? Yeah, now that the community and the Verein exists, what to do next? Well, get involved. We have monthly meetups here, and we're also hosting others, as you can see. We have membership, so if you have some time and skills and you want to contribute and help work on something that's happening here, help grow this space, become a member, you get cheaper drinks. Yeah. And if you don't have any skills to contribute, but you have money, we're also happy to take that from you in the form of a Fördermitglied. So you can help just keep the lights on and keep hosting these great events and seeing the work that we're doing. And by the way, at the end, after everybody has spoken, we're going to set up the full audio system you see kind of stuck at the sides and play some of the material that we've worked on. So, thanks for your time. If you want to keep in touch with us, there's some QR codes here, or you can just talk to us afterward. And then after a moment or so, I think we'll play you this video.
Yeah, we will have you can ask any questions you have right now on stream, or we can have a chat afterwards, like as you prefer. Okay, Stefan?
Should we play the video then?
Yeah, we promised the Reclaim Wonder video. So
oh no, it closed. No, where is it? No.
I have a question, Timo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we talk about some of the sound? Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, check. So you guys are doing quite a lot of ambisonics, aren't you? What other multi-channel formats are you experimenting with?
We are really completely render agnostic because we feel there are so many different alternatives that are better or worse for different situations. So we have a lot of experience in working ambisonics because we feel it's from its conception a really nerdy scientific format, but it allows a lot of creative things that other formats do not allow. But the workshops we're doing, Andrew did the first workshop where we talk about immersive audio in a broader sense, because the first important thing actually is the thinking concept behind it, and when you understood that, then going into using different renderers is just the next step. So for us, the first workshop was what is immersive audio, how to think about it, and then we will now host different workshops about an ambisonic workflow, about an Atmos workflow, probably a 4D sound workflow, maybe an ELISA workflow. So because we feel there are so many different types of renderers and styles on the table that are all have their own pros and cons, and so we feel it's really important to not push a product, because this is also part of being this fine. We have no need of selling something to someone. Like, there's no partnership with one vendor. We are trying to partner up with vendors, but all with a big saying like, okay, we can help you talk about it, but it will be next to all the other things that are there. We just play it.
If there's no more questions, maybe we can dim the lights, if that's possible. That's not possible. Then we're just gonna watch this.
Construction. Yeah, I mean, we can say a few words like why this looked that way. So the basic idea was that Stefan started having conversations with Mozilla about how we can visualize the connection between people or the sharing of information and the flow of information through the internet. And so what we did then was we filled the room with a few transparent LED panels, and some of the LED panels had a sensor, like a infrared sensor that Mickey built in front of it, and so you could trigger a response. And what happened was that you started kind of an entity of a particle system in that point that Joseph created, and this particle cloud then would start move through the room, and everywhere this specific particle cloud hit one of the screens, you would see it. And all the screens also had speakers built in, so you could also follow them not just visually but also audibly. So Andrew created kind of in an Ableton live patch the sound for the clouds, and so it was completely interactive at that point. So all the video was rendered in real time, all the audio was controlled and rendered in real time, and so yeah.
And there was the music that was playing was an ambisonic bed of music that I also composed, and this was playing. This was pre-rendered, but it's just playing on a loop in the background, and yeah.
I mean, probably Joseph and Mickey can talk more about the interesting TouchDesigner part of this project, and Stefan, obviously, but yeah, that's later. Soon. Yeah, are there any more questions?
Well, all right then. Thank you so much.
Maybe I have a last question.
Yes.
How exactly did you link the position of the particles with the position of the audio? How was the flow of information in that case? Who was first? Who was following?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we found some limitations in TouchDesigner as it is at this stage, and Joseph quickly actually built an audio renderer that was actually taking the position of the audio, like the audio stream per object was going into the TouchDesigner patch, and then based on the location of the cloud, there was also the panning was also done in TouchDesigner. So
I think also Markus contributed a
Yeah.
bit to this panning solution, right? It was like
Yeah.
several experts
Yeah.
solving the issue of panning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, also Markus.
Yes, Mickey.
Just a little remark rather than a question, but given that we're on a live stream, I think it makes sense to mention that we would love to show this again. Like, it was a very fun project to work on, and if we can get another chance to show this at a festival or a venue that is able to host us, then let us know. Yeah.
What a wonderful comment, Mickey. Thank you for remembering to say that. Yeah, we would be very keen to show that. It was a very short production time, and we were very happy how the team flowed with each other.
Yeah.
So we're looking for opportunities to do that again.
Totally.
With that, thank you very much for this introduction. I think you all heard that the Spatial Media Lab has very open doors for everybody who wants to get involved. We're going to have a little break now, and then we're looking forward to hear from Alex Guevara, a Berlin-based artist. I think most of you know his work. He's been on the top of the list of what people when we ask people who want do you see at the roundtable, they're all like Alex Guevara, Alex Guevara. So we're very happy that he agreed to speak to us today. And we're gonna continue with that at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Cool.
and then I will introduce you. Yeah, I'm just going to start with my stuff. Hello, and we are back from the break. And before we go to the much anticipated talk by Alex, I will use the opportunity to say that we've started the summer season program. We've already released the beginners course, and we're so close to release the intermediates program, which has 12 modules this year. And I'm just going to quickly run through it. We will have the beginner GLSL, introduction to GLSL with Fanta. We're going to have Pao Olea from Chile, who talks about procedural graphic design with TouchDesigner. Taps into topics like color theory and so on. Not a super technical session, but more something about design, which we want to enforce a bit more. Then we're going to have Wieland, who talks about DMX, ArtNet, LED mapping. We're going to have Josef with a 2-session advanced GLSL, talking about 3D textures and volumetrics. Then we're going to continue with another Wieland, who going to enlighten us about how to use headless CMS to manage more complex and content-driven TouchDesigner installations. Stephen Bondley, who's going to talk about his way to connect TouchDesigner with Unreal Engine and benefit from the advanced rendering possibilities that Unreal Engine brings while staying in the beloved TouchDesigner world. Then Dan, aka Function Store, is going to present a module about Python in TouchDesigner. So something we all kind of touch on, but maybe not on the most educated level. So that's going to fix that. Then Moritz Hilscher from Laser Sollinger is going to talk about how to control lasers from TouchDesigner and bring the newest developments there to your attention. Mickey van Olst is going to do another edition and evolution of the Chain GPU course, where he introduces you to his Chain GPU tool. If you haven't tried it yet, try it. It's really amazing. And he's also going to talk about how to use it for design. Then we're going to have Ploys, who's going to talk about creating visuals with point clouds. And then we're going to dive even deeper into the point cloud working with 3D scans topic with Heckmann, who's also going to connect that to the particles GPU component and how to customize that. And very happy to have Lyle Hintz, aka Simulate, who's going to talk about how to integrate generative AI into TouchDesigner workflows. You may know his stream diffusion tool and the ComfUI work he does. And we hope that that package is going to be to your liking, and we're going to release it in the next day. We still have some date discussions with some of the instructors. And that's it with the advertising block. Thank you, Wieland. And thank you for listening to it. And now I'm very happy to have Alex Guevara here. This has been a while in the making. To convince him to, a few years in the making, to convince him to share with us. And without further ado, Alex, thank you very much for coming. Very curious to hear.
Thank you. Oh, can we have the video? Well, to introduce myself, I think it's better with a video. So yeah, who I am. I'm Alex, and I'm doing most of the time. These black and white particle simulations, most of the time they are black and white, but I also do color, but not by my own initiative. And sometimes people ask me, why do I do these black and white things? And for me, it's a bit hard to explain why I do it. So tonight I want to kind of give you an introduction, who I am or what I do. But for me, to use words sometimes it's tricky, so I will try to show videos and sounds. And where is this all coming from? What are the influences or the background that I have? I dropped uni even before starting, and I had my first computer at 18 years old. So my main influences comes with music, sometimes with the covers, sometimes with the sounds. It's very different. So this is, when I was living in Peru, I used to go a lot to the concerts, hardcore punk. This is where my influences or my roots are. I will get inspired by the lyrics, by the music, or sometimes by the covers as well. By the title of the cover or the album, by the music. And I was listening a lot to this kind of music. And in 2003, a friend shared with me a band that was changing more or less the perspective, how I see music or the things that I like, and it was this album. It's a Spanish band called Carbapen Attack. And today, for me, to tell you who I am, for me, I would say my love language is music. When I like someone, I will send them a song. I will send them a message, hey, I like you, or to express my feelings, or something similar. So I would like to play a song that got like really into my mind for over 20 years. And I think this is reflected in the output of my works. All these harsh sounds, but the juxtaposition of the lyrics being at the same time romantic, and it's a love song. So this is something that touched me, and they was like, oh, I want to do something like that. I don't want to do colorful stuff. I want to do more raw, what I feel in my day-to-day. So I started this exploration, and this year it's gonna mark 10 years that I start to use TouchDesigner. And I want to share some of the stuff that I did at the beginning from some chronological stuff. So in 2014, I found myself installing TouchDesigner, and it was again the same click that I had with this song that I shared with you. I was like, oh, finally I found a software that I can express the ideas that I have. I tried processing, I tried jitter, I tried Quartz Composer, but I never clicked really into it. So TouchDesigner was like, okay, this is it, and then I'm gonna stick with this software and continue exploring what I have in my head and my heart, I would say. So this was 2014. I think that was the first image that I saved. I experimented, but the first image that I saved was this one. If I'm not mistaken, a tutorial by Richard Burns. And then, like everybody, I was like playing with controllers, but never got really attracted into the interactive stuff. Then, fast forward to 2015, I had like a purpose. I knew that what I want to do with TouchDesigner. I want to try the laser stuff, because with open frameworks was beyond my skills. So I was okay, TouchDesigner is already, Ethereum, I think it was already there. So I started to play with TouchDesigner. This is me spraying with the deodorant because I didn't have the smoke machine. Yeah. And then I was, okay, laser, it works great. Now I want to try to do full DOM with TouchDesigner. And I started, this was my first piece in 2015 with full DOM, the classic, agreed, deform into a fisheye lens. Back then there was no projection top or anything, there was just a shader on the forum. And also started to play with particle systems. 2016 came, I moved to Berlin. Again, the same thing, particles, lines. Trying with instancing and getting again back into particle systems. 2017, I started exploration with, let's say, interactive stuff, but I didn't want to go into Kinect. I wanted to go a bit in a different route. So I started to play with EEG, kind of controlling a keyboard and interacting with TouchDesigner. Here is just sending some OSC numbers, nothing fancy, changing the lines on the particle system. And then I started, okay, I feel comfortable with the software. I want to learn some shading, lights on the instancing. I will play with this. And I was really happy with the results that I was getting. And mostly it was all real time. I got into photogrammetry. Well, now it's super popular. This is during holidays. I think it's even Easter in 2017, 16. And in that moment I was, okay, I explore a lot. I want to kind of find a style that my signature, what can I do with the software? I explore photogrammetry, EEG. And then in 2018, while trying stuff, I finally get into this. More instancing, sound reactive, the classics. And they also wanted to learn more techniques, a bit of GLSL, so I got obsessed with these particle strands. I wanted to do it in TouchDesigner. I remember I contacted Markus asking if he can do it, and he said, yes, we can do it. But unfortunately, that was out of my budget, which was great, and forced myself to learn how to do it. And with this, I was, okay, this is super powerful. I was super happy what can be achieved with a real-time software. I continue playing with this for a bit. Moving points, basically it's just particles and yeah. The classic Mixamo, playing the particles and getting some trails. And then I started to experiment with fluid simulations. And it was also like clicking in and started to dive more into it. Again, the same passions, full dome, particles, fluids, vector fields, more particles, and it was repeating these circles for full dome.
Do you want to use WhatsApp or phone? Do you want to use WhatsApp?
More fluid simulations and yeah. Got my work also in a book with AR, which was cool to see the working, something tangible that you can see and you can pass the pages. That was cool. Yeah, and from there I was okay. What can I do with all these experiments? It's almost like 5-6 years that I'm using Touch. I want to create something else more. I want to do more art pieces or stuff like that. But in the meantime, I also was behind the scenes, some stuff that I never share. Is like I like to build UIs. I like to see the creations that look nice on the screen. And by default, I don't like the stuff that TouchDesigner is delivering. So I say, okay, I'm gonna build myself one. Say, but poof, I don't have no idea how to do it. So back then I had a project that was creating a mapping software for a freelance job. And then I was, okay, if, I don't know how old are you using TouchDesigner, but there was like this software, Bird Pusher by Deb Harlam. Then I got into the software and made my own adaptation with my own UI to use it. And then I got into another project that we had to use 16 projectors to do mapping. Another project, freelancing. Some shows, collaborations. Another full dome show. I think this is a video where I was checking the previs before the show if we are playing it live or we are playing it render. And yeah, this is some of my, let's say, hobbies behind the scenes that I like to do. For each project I try to build a UI if I'm gonna reuse the project more than once. Or I will 3D modeling, mono, and add some sliders. And then during the pandemic, we got into this project with Daniel Alfobo from Atelier E, and this was a fun project that I also built the UI and help with some UI and some research on the cameras, and we built this software that's mainly OpenCV, doing some calibration tests to help us to know where we are taking the pictures and the space that we cover. So what are my current endeavors after all this? I started to do more installations. This was in China with my own work and my sound, because sometimes it's not clear. Most of the time when it's black and white, I did the sound. And when it's in bold colors, someone else did the sound. It's more installations, full dome, monochromatic. And here we can see some colors. So this is a collaboration with Dasha Raj. Obviously she made the music. I had nothing to do with that. And then I got into these more installations. I was doing it for museums, for galleries with my own work and sound. And I was curious, like, what will be like a bigger venue to do this stuff? But as an independent artist, sometimes it's really hard to find a venue that you can go like beyond this standard scale. So during the pandemic, I got contacted by a company in the US for a museum, the Museum of the Future in Dubai. So in this case, I was already, I know the only thing that I will do is just particles. And we build an interactive installation with colors where people are walking around and they react. But before that, as this was during COVID, we had to mainly do it remotely. So we had a lot of trial and error. We were testing. The first idea was like, oh, we need to do water. So I started to build something that looks like water. But then we realized if we project this, it won't look like water. So let's try something else. We try with fluids. And because it was during COVID, there was no way to test it or way to experiment. So okay, oh, I love previews. Then let's do some previews of it, how it's gonna look. It was half a circle with a mirror, so it looked like it's a full circle. Again, a UI to check how it looks, and because I like it. And this is more or less how I do most of my works. I always check in my own screen, and then on site I will adjust it and tweak it. And obviously this is not a one-person project. I was just in charge of the particle systems, and there was another team doing an incredible tracking system that was done by Jake Marsico from Deep Local in Pittsburgh. And here is, if I'm not mistaken, a small video. And this was the first time to do something in a bigger scale. And I was so grateful to have also such a director that was able to understand the limitations of what can we achieve with the software. The first task was to do everything at 4K, but when we arrived, actually we had 4 or 5 projectors, each one 4K, so the resolution changed to 8K. But we managed to get everything running at 60 FPS real time. And then I continue with my own stuff, doing my visuals with my sound and my visuals. And I already done a lot of projects most of the time. Let's say for tours, I will do 1 track, 2 tracks, max 3 tracks for an artist or a band. And I'm a person who likes the extremes, like black and white, 0 and 1. Yeah, that sounds too cliche. So when I'm at home or in my studio, I will just do small testing, a really tiny screen, and just in my monitor to play and see how it looks. And when I'm doing this exploration, messing around, I got a message, hey Alex, I have a big project, which is, you know, the classic, I have a big project, always sounds like, what is a big project? And it's like, and then I said, sure. And then I got another message from a member of the band, say, Alex, the creative director just wrote you, we have a big project in less than a month, and we would like to work with you. And I was like, okay, Swedish House Mafia. I know Swedish House Mafia, but what can I do for Swedish House Mafia? I was like a bit confused. And then I flew to Stockholm, met the director, met the band, and then I said, okay, now I understand what do you want from me. And they told me, we just want you to do what you do. We don't influence the output of what you're gonna do. Alexander Wessely designed this stage, the ring made of concrete. And we had a big canvas for, I think, 120,000 people. And it was the first time that I had such a big screen and such a big audience. And I was so stressed out that I had to go to the Apple store and get an Apple Watch to measure my heartbeat because it was really a bit too much for me, but we managed. The team was great. Again, particles. It's the same thing that I do, just with some color. They will allow me to do just, I was asking them, can we do like the full screen just white for some seconds? Yes. And then we did some red colors. And because Kanye West canceled for that edition, they team up with The Weeknd, which I did one of the tracks for them. And this was so special for me because it was the first time that I was commissioned to do the full set of a band. So there were no one in between that I have to adapt or change or morph it. So I was the only artist working on the visuals for the band. And I think here's a short video. After it was done, I was watching the streaming from here, from Berlin. I was almost having a heart attack. And then the streaming finished. I opened my computer and booked a flight, and I went to Turkey for 3 days. Again, this is a project that a lot of people are involved, and I will be forever grateful to Alexander Weseli and Steve Angelo that contacted me to join them in this adventure. After this project, I was okay. I did this is like something. I couldn't believe it at some point. In the second weekend, I woke up the day of Coachella and I was calling the mother of my daughter, hey, I woke up and I think, is this real? Is this happening? And she said, yeah. I said, okay. Then I continue with my life for some months. I was like, what I'm gonna do now? I have no challenges anymore. It's like, where can I place my visuals? And then I got contacted by an agency, and they asked me the same thing. We want you to do what you do, but just in green. And then I was like, advertising, okay, this is super challenging. I never saw something done in advertising, purely done or only done with TouchDesigner. And we work together with Daniel Dalfobo and Itaru Yasuda to create digital assets for the brand, for the new campaign, because they were changing the logo after so many years. And we help with all the animations. Just to clarify, all the animations, not the film, were made only in TouchDesigner.
109 years of human life and two hands screaming, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, now. Heckmann's racing out of their sockets, scouting for the millimetre of time like between euphoria and the grass. 120 decibels booming in your bone marrow. Take a deep breath in.
All that was done in TouchDesigner. So we deliver all these animations that you see here. 3 seconds animations at 60 FPS. That was really, really paying attention to detail. We had to go almost on the reviews frame by frame. We deliver 8K resolution for the videos and 12K for some stills that they use for some posters. This was done by Itaru, that was Daniel, myself, and Itaru made this particle transition to the logo. The project got 2 awards last year that are really important in the advertising industry, and this is more or less how it looks, some of the assets. And the project continued to evolve, and last year during the Formula 1 event at Las Vegas also made it to the famous sphere. again, all the assets were created in TouchDesigner, which some people don't believe. They say, no, it's done in something else. It's TouchDesigner. And of course, this was many people involved with an amazing director that knew what he wants. And then it's great, to work. It helps so much when someone knows what they want from your skills. And from there, where do I go? I wanted to do something else. I wanted to find music that I really love. And then a friend that I have, Mariana Beresovska, got in contact with me and said, hey, Alex, I have this musician and there is the chance to play at CTM Festival. Say, okay, Berlin, home, sounds amazing. Let's do it. And then we work in a show together. I will just cut it because I think we are running out of time. Then that was the first presentation, and then for the next festival we were doing some changes and adaptations. And after this, we started to play in church, which was, I found it weird but cool. So yeah, this is more or less a recap. And because we are at 30 minutes, I will try to jump into a TouchDesigner network quickly to share with you more or less what are the tools that I use almost in every project. Mirror. This one. Because for me, I find myself using the same tools. If a secret. I don't use the palette with my components because I have like 10 components that I use all the time. This is just an example, it's not actually part of the show. But I have always, when I'm commissioned to use music on the video, I build this play bar that I can jump and helps me to know where I am in the scene during the performance, data visualization, whatever is it. And at the beginning I built it, okay, I just create a filing and then I convert to open view. I was using the chroma key to get rid of the borders, but I was not happy. And then I built this that is getting the audio waveform. And lately I started to experiment but I want more details of the waveform. So I managed to get this information. So I know in every peak that the audio will react. Can we have more volume, please? So if I jump here, it's useful for me when I do like live things, and then I found myself when I have an installation, and most during COVID, I need to keyframe a lot. And if you are using the animation, you know that sometimes it's like a toxic relationship with the animation comp. You love it and you hate it. So I was like, okay, I need to find something else. I need to find another tool that helps me to keyframe the way I want, and also to store it. The first approach that I had was, okay, I can go to Ableton, I can control Ableton with my timeline, I can go frame by frame, but when I need to record, I just can record it from the beginning or certain parts, and I need to wait that everything is recorded. Then I discovered a software which I mostly use, TouchDesigner, but this software, I say, okay, I will give it a try. And it's called Bittner. I don't know how many of you know this. So here, because I need to keyframe RGB, I was okay. With TouchDesigner, if I want to keyframe RGB in the animation comp, I need 3 channels. I cannot do like, of course I can have like a top and then I can switch it top to chop, but I wanted to do it this way. And the beauty of this software is like, okay, you have the animation, you can stream the OSC to TouchDesigner, you can control it in real time, but this lets you export the animation into an XML file that looks like this, with all the information of the tracks and the keyframing that you had. And then it's okay, cool, but how can I use it in TouchDesigner? How can I place it and then manipulate it the way I want it? And then I build a component, because that's what I'm doing when I'm not doing visuals. I'm building components that I know I'm gonna reuse in the future. Let me find it. That quick mark. Yeah, here. And this component will let me import what I keyframe there into a chop, into a script. So, okay, I can use a lookup and I can play it frame by frame. But what if I want to create a change or something changed during the rehearsal or the venue? It's just different. And there I thought, okay, I know this old trick that I can convert my chop into, let's call it data, into an animation. Convert to keyframe. Is that how is it? Huh?
Keyframe.
No. If we have internet, we can see it. I should not do those things in life. Keyframes. And then you have this animation. But this comes with the cubic function. Then you have to include segments in box selection. And you can convert it into linear. But it's not precise. I was comparing, okay, I go frame by frame. Actually, here it looks different. It's not the way it is. So okay, I had to jump into a script, and I implemented in my chop, convert to animation. And then I had all what I did in Bittner animated into TouchDesigner correctly with linear interpolation. You can get the interpolation cubic, easy, but Bittner has more options than TouchDesigner. And this comes from another script that is taking the data and creating an animation comp. Besides that, I found myself jumping into the network all the time, and I was like, okay, I need to build something else that allows me to go quickly where I want to go. And if you have used Houdini, you have something called quick marks, that you just press Ctrl+1 and start a quick mark where you are in the network. So let's say I want to go here and place it here exactly in the corner. I will press Ctrl+1, and then you have here a notification that it's star. And then if your network is super big, I place it here, Ctrl+2, then I go outside, Ctrl+3, or inside here, Ctrl+4, and then I can jump from 1, 2, 3, or 4. But this has a bug that Markus is aware of it. So the fix for this is just to call the function twice here, and then the UI updates correctly. I want to share those things. Today I was planning to upload it to my website, but unfortunately Squarespace doesn't allow you upload files that are not movies or images, which sucks. So at some point this will be online somewhere for everybody to download. Or if you feel the urge or the FOMO to use it, please send me an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for this amazing talk. Really great to see also works that are not happening on Instagram.
Yeah.
Maybe I start off the questions with one that I was thinking about this Coachella thing.
Yes.
So were you there to perform the visuals? Or
Unfortunately, because of my passport, I couldn't go.
So how did you solve that? Was that pre-scripted?
We had two systems, one running real time and one playback. And because like if you work in such a scale, you work with show control. So every track has its video and it's synced via timecode. Okay. So they can mix it and they can speed it up and speed it down and the visual will also react to that.
So you had basically an operator who was operating.
Yes, but the funny stories was like, from what I know from the human person team, they told me that before that, almost no one was doing visuals in that stage at 60 FPS. They had to push it because the processors were struggling to play all that big files at 60 FPS. Normally, if you see all the videos are running at 30, you see the Beyonce visuals like dying at 24 per second, but this was 60, and I think now they are using 60 FPS. Like, yeah.
Well, the film people still think 24 is the way to go. No?
Yeah, for me it's like 60 FPS or didn't happen.
Well, any questions from the audience?
Well, thank you so much for sharing kind of your story as well. I think very inspiring. And yeah, as you said, we all know your work from Instagram, but it's awesome to see maybe also your trajectory, where you came from and where you went. Very inspiring. I think I had a bunch of questions during your talk. I think one Stefan just asked. Another one would be, I really like your UI to scroll through the video, through the audio file to see, and also seeing your interactive points, kind of, interaction points. Since you're also using generative systems, I find myself struggling, like especially if I keyframe to audio for something, that whenever you change something in the beginning, because it's generative, it will change the whole outcome of it. How do you find yourself getting around that, or what's your workflow?
I use me times seconds. I don't use apps times seconds. Then I'm sure that it will repeat the way I want it, or the way I saw it 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, okay, true, me too, but I rather meant, because if it's reacting to audio and you kind of fine-tune your parameters, keyframe your parameters to fit the audio, because if you jump through the file, it will look different than it
if
will
I jump,
look
yes,
if you...
of course, I have to play it from the beginning, and I have to watch that, but sometimes I have a switch, or I have some conditions in between. Okay, if I'm at a certain frame, just switch to one.
Okay.
So I know more or less what but yeah, I jump, and then when I'm sure, I play it back from the bottom till the end.
I thought maybe you have a beautiful workflow for this as well, but...
No, come on.
Okay,
maybe, I don't know. No, sometimes I find myself, to not overthink and just keep it simple. Because a lot of people think, oh yeah, why do you use GLSL? I use it because when I started to do this, you were not able to do the instancing only in chops, and then of course now it's a privilege to have that you can do it in tops, but it has its cons. When I talk to people, it's like, do you understand how memory works in TouchDesigner? You can do it in tops, a small project, but if you run a big project that the memory is getting allocated, good luck with that, which is good for me. That's why I got some jobs. So say, okay, we not managed to get it running at 60 FPS, so I can do it.
I can't. But I was also very happy to hear about this animation trick. I've never heard about that before.
Oh, yeah. But it's not precise, don't rely on that.
As said, super inspiring. Thank you so much. I noticed you're using a Mac, and I'm wondering, is that your primary development tool?
Actually, no, it's a MacBook Air, my primary computer. But I have always, when I have to render or do something serious, it's on a Windows for sure. But I have on start that if it's Mac, I just reduce the texture divided by 2, and I'm sure it's gonna run at the stable frame rate. And if it's Windows, run at the original resolution. Again, trying to keep it simple and functional. You can start to build your own stuff, but it works. And from experience, I run big installations on experimental version, which is crazy. We talk to the derivative people, please don't use it for an installation, and we use it for kinetic installations, running. So it depends. I think TouchDesigner, that's what I love. It's so stable. I don't have crashes. As if I do something that I know it's a mistake, of course it will crash, but otherwise, no. Don't crashes. And yeah, I love the software. That's obvious, because when people ask me, do you use TouchDesigner for your work? It's not obvious, but yes, I do use only TouchDesigner for my work.
I kind of also have to do the time ringing that we are already at 51, so 9 minutes before the next presentation. So maybe one last question, and then I'm sure Alex will be super happy to answer questions in person. Hopefully.
Yeah. It's an idea.
Thank you again for your presentation. I have a question regarding your visual language, since you've really narrowed down your aesthetic into or honed in your aesthetic into this particle system vernacular. Where do you see yourself evolving into this further?
In the next, yeah, that's a good question. Let me think. Colors, I guess. I'm using more colors. That will be a normal. But for me, it's like I need to do something, that I have a reason to do it. If I don't have a reason or a good reason to do it, that's with the interactive stuff. I myself won't just wake up and say, oh, today we're going to use my Kinect that I have. No, I'm just going to continue what I think I love. I do it because I love it, not because I'm expecting some reaction of it. And for now, I'm not getting bored of it. I got bored of the splines, yes, but then I don't use it anymore. Yeah. Unreal, I said 2 years ago, I said, but nah, TouchDesigner, it's... when the question comes, it's possible to do it with TouchDesigner, and I always answer, it's depending on the time and the budget, everything is possible. I have more projects to share, but I think we will spend a lot of time. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of your visuals are quite raw, so to say.
Yeah.
How would you say is like your division between the rendering and the post effects? Do you do a lot of work on it after you've rendered something, or?
Oh, after rendering? No, never. No. No, I know a lot of people do that. No. Raw from Touch. I never touch it. I will load it into After Effects.
No. I mean like real-time post effects, as in like bloom
for the
or
particles,
like other kinds of things, depth of field, etc.
Depth of field, yes. Depth of field, a bit of shadows. Depends on the project, but mostly it's raw. That's why I was sharing, the song at the beginning. This is what I like. For me, it's like just honest output. But yes, when I have two previews with some 3D, I will use different techniques. I will go with PBR, I will get like a HDRI, and get a bit technical, which I love as well. Yes, then it will a bit of bloom, depth of field, what else? Blur, yeah. It depends on the project, but for my personal projects, no.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Alex. I think it was worth the wait. Now we're going to have a shortened break. Everybody can grab a drink, and then we're going to be back with Markus, Heckmann, with the newest news from the headquarters. Maybe we stretch the break a bit and we meet 10 past. Yeah. Thank you. Recover from the last talk. It was very inspiring and everybody needed a drink. And now we're very happy to once again host our favorite guest at the TouchDesigner Roundtable, Markus Heckmann, not from Toronto but live from Berlin. And I'm very curious what Markus will share with us today. Markus, welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, congratulations on the 30th roundtable. That's quite a achievement. I somehow tend to remember some roundtables with like 4 people in a bar or something.
Oh, that was the touch bar.
That was the touch bar. Ah, okay.
After the initial.
18, yeah.
Started the touch bar.
Okay, great. Well, I'm getting back to something that, thanks for having me again. And it's good to be back. It was the roundtable number 8 4 years ago, where I showed a little tool that I developed and that I actually use frequently in whatever I do, which is called the Zuweiser, which is this QR code there, which basically lets you take MIDI or OSC data in and kind of shape the data and then export it onto or bind it onto parameters. And there was always a bug in it. And what I'll do actually now is I'll just go over things that we've been working on since releasing the last official release. So it's a couple small things, a couple bigger things, and maybe a little bit outlook for one thing into the future. The Zuweiser, it's 4 years ago that I was at this roundtable number 8, streaming in from Toronto back then. And what Zuweiser does, maybe I just show you. It's a little UI, which you would specify like a MIDI in or an OSC in, but I'm just going to take a constant as a source. And you can select here this as your controller source, and maybe I'll just do the controller range as 0 to 1 for the incoming signal. And then you can create these little mappings here where you select a channel from your controller source. So for example, here I have my channel 1, and you can give it a name, and you can give it a bind destination, which I can look at in a moment. And then you can rearrange this value. So from 0 to 1, maybe for this particular thing, I want to go 0 to 10. And then I can say what my interpolation curve would be. So do I want to have this linearly interpolated or with an S-curve or custom? And the custom interpolation here was something that's built on the S-curve chop, which I really like a lot. But I always had the problem that the prepend and append, which basically adds a little bit of a shoulder kind of area to it, you could only do this for one single channel in this chop, while this chop actually would create multiple channels or would be capable of doing multiple channels. And adjusting the curve itself would work for multiple channels, but not for the prepend and append. And while this might seem like a small thing for me after 4 years, this is a major achievement. That here finally you have a remap length parameter where you can just say, okay, this prepend and append, which normally, like right now it's 1,000 samples, but if I add 305 samples as a prepend, now the whole thing is 1,300 samples long. The remap lengths can bring this all together or back into this common lengths for all channels. And I don't know how many of you do this regularly, but when you create multiple chops or multiple channels in a chop, sorry, German keyboard is terrible. I'm new to this. No. There. The price difference was so huge that I had to get a German keyboard. 1 to 10, there. That what you can actually do is all these parameters, you can use a Chan index expression to choose a particular value per channel. So if I would say my my to range is me.Chan index, then actually now your range here is not all 0 to 1, but it's basically 0 to whatever. So this makes it possible to use these, use a lot of these chops in a way that you can have lookups into tables or whatever, and control all of these parameters based on, various values. So just to prove that point here, if I add another mapping, I can choose the same channel here as an input. You see it creates a second channel there. My new max might be 5 for this one. And now I have my custom interpolation here, and now I can adjust this custom interpolation completely separately for the second channel. So tiny thing, but it took me a while to get that in, and finally I have it, so I'm very happy, and I wanted to share this. In a future release, we'll also have this for the trigger chop, which makes total sense. The trigger chop usually use this to create an ADSR for an incoming signal, but if you turn off time slicing on this thing, you actually can create this lookup curve manually. Now the problem is that you have to work in sampled seconds or frames or something like this, but we'll have remap lengths for this as well, so then you can work much easier in fractions to create these lookup curves. So tiny things that are useful. Yeah, as I said, this tool has been a constant companion for me. I'm not sure if anybody ever heard of it before or looked at it, but for me quite useful. Actually, how many people have updated to our last release, or how many people are working with the 2023 11? So we have a new official release with a lot of changes that are pretty good, I think. I'm not going to go over this right now because there's quite a bit, but show a couple more things that we added there or reworked. So for example, the bloom top was introduced with that official release, but in the meantime, we reworked the whole bloom top again to reorganize the parameters mainly to make it easier to use, and also redid the whole algorithm for much better characteristics there. One thing that I like about the bloom top as well is the ability to actually look at the different stages. Often when you have a top and it does a lot of different things, it can be difficult to see the changes that you're trying to do there. So for example, the stage in the bloom top is that you first have to do a little bit of pre-adjusting the image before applying the bloom. And I wonder if this is going to find itself into more operations. You have this output selector here. And by default, the output selector is the input plus the bloom. But you can also just look at the pre-process, which means now you can actually properly adjust your pre-brightness, pre-gamma before then getting to the whole bloom thing. So it's kind of like a little bit like a threshold there that is applied. But I do like it this way, that you have the option to look at the pre-process first, or look at the bloom that it creates before actually choosing the input plus the bloom, which also has a little fader here, so you can control how much of the input you're actually using. So I think those are little usability things that we find while we're developing tools that might make their way into other operators as well. It just makes it simpler to use some of these operators.
Just a quick feedback. I think in the parameter page.
Yeah.
So it would be natural to maybe also have the output.
Have it in the same. Yeah, it's true. It came from, I guess we started this with adding compositing operations to to a lot of the generators, and then I bet that's how it made it to the output page.
Inputs first for it to show up.
Actually, where is it?
It was there. You just need to actually.
Oh, you have to connect the input. Yeah, exactly. Then it's on the output here, input plus noise, stuff like that. Yeah. That's a good point. Yep. Thanks. That kind of feedback is always very welcome. Another thing that made its way into TouchDesigner is the MPCDI top and DAT. Now, Not sure who knows MPCDI. No, it's multiple projection common data interchange. We have until now, if you wanted to do, if you worked with other systems that do projection mapping, you might have used the Vioso top for this, or you might have used the scalable display top for this. And while they do have a different set of algorithms perhaps behind it, both of these softwares and other softwares as well actually have the option to export the calibration, which means the textures that do the blending, the textures that have to do with the deformation of your image. All of them are able to export also this MPCDI format. So you might be able now to use a software like NestMap, for example, which comes as a which is a dome mapping software, and which is very competitively priced to load in a dome mapping into TouchDesigner via the MPCDI. But that's not all. So MPCDI is basically a zip file, and it contains an XML. And in this XML, you have various camera positions, which could be your projectors as well, or which are your projectors essentially, their lens information, and the deformation, if that's the case for them. So here in this example, you can use MPCDI actually just to have a preview of your, or to create a pre-visualization of your mapping project. So it can be used for this as well. You don't just use it for projection mapping onto a dome or onto buildings or something like this, but you can actually interchange from different softwares also the information just where your projectors are and what their characteristics are. And the whole process there is fairly simple. I mean, that's then built out as a little project here as an example. But you have a DAT, an MPCDI DAT, where you load in the MPCDI file. And this will give you a definition for each of the projectors with all of their information, which then here I just built a little replicator setup for the different cameras that fetch the position and the projection matrix from the DAT, from the MPCDI DAT. And yeah, that's then just rendered into this little previs. Something I learned from Stefan, and I think via, oh shit, I forgot his name. But it's this trick to actually draw the projection cone, essentially, by using the the inverse of the projection matrix applied onto the geometry. Really useful to create from a box. Like you start with a box, and having the projection matrix from your projector, you actually get the, sorry, I forgot my mouse. You actually get the projector cone from it as well. Nice little trick there. So the MPCDI DAT reads the information of the MPCDI file itself. The same thing also works for with the MPCDI top, where it doesn't necessarily load, well, it does load all the information about the projector as well, but here it mostly loads the distortion and the blending files, and therefore, actually I have that as a little example here too. Test map test. Let's just start that up. Very similar to the how Vioso works, essentially. There. So you feed it a fisheye, and loading in the MPCDI file, you can either output a single region, and you can select which region you want to see, or here via region ID, so for the single projectors, or you can output it as the whole buffer. So now you have the one texture that you can forward to your projectors. And with an info dot, you can still get at some of the information of the region ID that you're looking at. There's also a Python interface to get to the projection matrix and the transform matrix of each projector. Another thing I want to mention, because the Kinect made its way out of the world, how do you say that? It ceased to exist. From what I understand, Microsoft sold the whole business to this company Orbeck, which took that over, and they're producing a range of cameras that do color depth and point clouds. We've implemented the API for Orbeck, and therefore the Femto, Gemini, and Astra lines of cameras are supported. So you can get at the textures of those cameras via the Orbeck top. Some of the hardware, like the Femto line, is also using the old Kinect Azure API or to get the skeleton data, and therefore you can get to this skeleton data currently with the Kinect Azure chops as well. So the whole technology is not dead, it just changed into a different company, which is Orbeck, and it's nice because this is available as USB cameras, but also as PoE, Power over Ethernet cameras. It actually expanded the usage quite a bit. A little bit more technical, sequential parameters. Since I last talked about this at the roundtable last summer, I mentioned there that we have sequential parameters. So just as a quick reminder what those are, sequential parameters are basically, if I take a constant chop, play forward, I do have these name value pairs here, which essentially I can create more of them or remove them. And this now we grouped together into this term sequential parameter, and you can control or create those for any component as well, where you can create custom parameters. Easily creatable via the customize component dialog on it. So my sequence, and I'm just going to make a sequence here. So now my custom page here has this little my sequence parameter, and adding now a string, for example, for a name. I can attach that to the sequence, and I also can create a value parameter or any other parameter or any other number of parameters that are for this sequence, and add it to the sequence. And now you can create these sequential parameters, which is quite useful when you're dealing, I don't know, even with keyframes or things like that as well. That's totally doable. The naming of those is a little bit funny. If you look at this, like the sequence is called mySequen. Each parameter now is called mySequen, then an ID for the sequence block and the name of the parameter itself. But via a Python interface, you're actually able to get to those fairly easily. Sorry? Yeah, in project one. I would have to type that all. With the slashes on a German keyboard, I don't trust myself with that yet. So with sequence, you can get to the sequences that you have. So mySequen here, you now have the sequence parameter there. Now you can get via an ID, you can get to the different sequence numbers here. So for example, I can get to the second sequence here, hello, give it a number, 1, 2, 3. And now if I want to get access to the parameter in this sequence, I can go just by the original parameter name that I gave it. So .name would actually get me to this name value here. You don't have to, you can, but you don't have to do the whole .par my sequence 1 name. This would be the same, but obviously that's a little bit harsh. And as you see, since you have access to it via list notation, you can also loop through these things and get the length of it and things like that. There is a funny thing here, which is the block ID parameter. That's a fairly strange one, but useful. If I add a parameter here that I call block ID, and I add it to the sequence, then if I create a new sequence, the block ID is actually filled out with a unique identifier or with a ever-increasing number. And this one is permanent to that sequence block. Meaning here my sequence block number 4 has the block ID 2 now because I added it later, which you shouldn't do, but anyway. So if I delete the sequence block 3 here, the block ID stays the same. So previously when reordering parameters in a sequence, you wouldn't know their original position or their original ID. So this whole block ID thing, which you can also access via the ID, via an ID member, is permanent, and you can also access the sequence block by this ID. So sequence dot mysequence dot ID 2 would return the sequence block index 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, this one. So easier access to an ID'd sequence there. Unloading operators, right. A lot of people, what they like to do is in a large show, they would just hit the cooking flag here to free up memory, GPU memory and stuff. And then they turn the cooking on again to make it go again. Operators in general now have an unload method. So if you have a noise top here, which takes too much of your memory because, I don't know, it's huge and it's 32-bit float or something. This one now takes up 268 megabyte of your precious GPU memory. You can now unload those things out of memory, which makes this whole process much nicer because you don't have to disable your whole cooking network. You actually can go exactly where you need to go to free up. Shit. Does that work? Yes. Dot unload. Doop. And the GPU memory is gone down to 0. So nicer way of unloading things, hopefully preventing the use of the cooking flag a bit, because when you're using the cooking flag, you're literally killing the whole network, which can have side effects when you start cooking for it again. Also, something that found its way into TouchDesigner is a general logger. That's something that Michel Didier has been working on. There is a system logger in TouchDesigner now, where you can, via TD resources, I forget, of TD resources, TD app locker. This allows you basically to log events into a file, into a general file. So if I want to, let's say, log an error here, error with an error message, help, then A, it shows it in the status bar automatically, and B, this is logged on your disk here. Let me just find that in your user app folder, app data local. Now I know this is a little bit, but I'm getting to the point where this becomes more, because this is a general place where you save things. TD logs, and so you get basically log files, proper log files, properly formatted and everything, and it makes use of the Python logger module. And can be extended this way as well. Now the logger, this is the system logger, so you can use it to write things, and we're using it internally as well, to write things into these log files. And in cases, there might be cases where we ask you, could you send us the log file, because then we can actually see what's happening with some of the custom operations that we're doing in TouchDesigner. But the logger also exists in the palette under tools, so you can create your own loggers. I think it's in tools, right? Yeah. So you can create your own loggers, which can be for your whole project, or which can be for components that you might distribute. And then, of course, you can also specify a log folder where things should be logged into. Hence, you don't have to go to that app folder thing. Yeah, because it's based on the Python logger, it is extendable, and yeah, it should be really useful for a lot of the installations out there. Another thing, if you haven't updated yet, we do have Apple ProRes support. Something so you can encode and decode in TouchDesigner. Hardware acceleration only on the Mac itself, but still, finally, that's there. Something that Malcolm is currently working on is color space workflow, which means that you will be able to choose in what color space TouchDesigner will work in. So we have those two color spaces that you can choose from, as RGB or ACSCG. Any texture or anything that you bring into TouchDesigner will be converted to that color space. So you know that you're working in a common color space in your project. And it will be, yeah, everything will be processed in this color space. And every parameter that has something to do with color will also let you know what the units that you're using, what color space they work in. The added benefit also is that then window comms will have the ability to output onto in HDR mode with the OS's HDR format. So we'll be able to output to HDR devices, HDR displays. Last but not least, I'm not sure if you have heard, together with the Node Institute and Holon, the event space at Monomango will be conducting another TouchDesigner event this year, and this is coming up pretty quickly in May. So this is May 21st to 23rd. There's probably also the time where we can talk a lot more about what's coming and what we've been doing. So far we have a good speaker selection of people that will be talking there. Some of you might know, some others hopefully maybe might be new people that you can get to know. Some of these are in the crowd here. And yeah, we haven't announced much more than that. It's a 3-day event. 2 days of this will be talks. tickets should go on sale eventually. I don't have a date, sorry, but I have a date for the whole thing, and hope to see you there. So that's it from me. Yeah. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Maybe I open the floor again with this logger thing. So how would I use this when I want to use this in my thing?
So often previously in installations, what you would, or what some of us would do, you might want to check on the state of your machine. Like you want to see regular messages on GPU memory usage or your frame time or something like this, or you want to catch certain errors that happen in your installation that you cannot catch by looking at it, but like that happen 3 days in. You basically set up your system so that it logs regularly events as information messages, or that any error that is occurring in your coding would be logged to a log file. And hence then it becomes easier to keep watch of the state of your installation or catch.
But I have to tell it what to watch. It's not enough to just drag in the logger and then everything
Correct.
happens miraculously.
No, you would have to still specify what you want to log. Yeah, that is important. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for Markus?
Yeah, actually building off the logger thing. So you said that if something's going on in Touch, we would send you the log file. But what does that necessarily mean if the log file is something we create? What if we created a bad logger?
Right, so I meant particularly the app logger files that we might ask you to send to us. Those might catch events where we put in log messages, error logs. The other log files, yeah, unfortunately, we cannot do much with. Yeah.
So with the addition of this logger, there's also, you've created hookups inside the Touch engine to log everything.
So currently, yeah, I mean, as it is, as you all know, TouchDesigner is built with TouchDesigner to a certain extent. So for these elements currently, we are adding in log messages when there is errors or so, where we catch errors. But this is going to extend more and more into system error messages and stuff like that. Yeah.
And are these log files already all in there, or the log commands already all in there, or not yet?
They're all in there. Well, I mean, you mean the ones that the framework is there.
Yes.
So you can. Let me see. Just to go to the docs here. Logger.
Yeah, never mind. I think I maybe misunderstood earlier.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
But there is a website with all the, or there's a page in the documentation with all the methods that are available for that.
Thank you.
Hi. So I have no questions for the logger. Maybe, I don't know, you don't show it. Is there any global log level you can set? But it's not so my main question.
I don't know about a global log level at the time, no.
But it's sometimes really handy, especially when you want to shut it off to make it more
correct.
performance.
Yeah.
So the other thing what I want to ask is for, I see it now with you, I come more from text-based coding world, I will say. And get there because of this always a little bit problem with TouchDesigner. And so what I really love to see will be a language server for any editor you want to use. Because in the moment it's really often, what was it? Where I have to go? Which op was it? I misspelled it, nothing works. And something like this, I think, will be really helpful
Yeah,
for a lot of people. And I know there is a project out, but it works buggy with VS Code.
So yes, this is something that we're absolutely actively working on. It's not a direct hookup to VS Code or something like this, but it's a bunch of I'm blanking. What are those files called? VLAN stub files, exactly. Thank you. It's always great to be able to rely on VLAN. Which means that what you will be able to do is if you are specifying an operator, for example, and you would say this is a movie file in one or something like this, you can in Python you basically then can say that this is of the type of a movie file. I don't even know actually. Something like this. Movie file in top or something. Is that how I do that? I thought so.
It's behind the A.
Oh, it's behind the A, correct. Yeah. Thanks. And now what VS Code now will know is that A is a movie file in top type. And from there, it will able to get to all the parameters and to all the methods and functions of that. So that should help.
Okay, but it's nothing built in. It was just grab what you have built there in your nodes and then directly send it to the language server of,
there's no direct connection, no, yeah.
And then I have another not so nice question maybe, because
That's
I'm
okay.
also not only come from the text-based world, I also come really from the Linux-based world. And so I have powerful computers, I love to work in Linux, and then it comes to this point, now I want to get creative and not do this nerdy basic stuff in C or C++. And then it's all like, well, all my nodes, everything is in Linux, and I have now to switch on this terrible thing called Windows. And it sucks on so many ways. Is there a way to bring this to run on Linux?
Linux. What will it take to get derivative to make TD for Linux? So 5 days ago. I would totally recommend just adding to it.
Yeah, I have been there, I read it. I just want to put more pressure on you.
Quite frankly speaking, as a company of 20 people with supporting 2 operating systems, if we would start supporting a 3rd operating system at the time, it would be hard. Like for us, it's more currently the focus on features than on more operating systems to support. So it's a scaling question. I believe it will probably come at some point, but not at the current time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Where can we find your Zuweise component?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can find that on the website. I can type. If you look for Zuweise. And there it is. And it's on my GitHub as well. Or you take a snapshot of the QR code here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make an offhand joke about if you have a sign at the derivative main office with like 10 days since the last time someone asked for TD for Linux.
I mean, I totally understand it. It's not a, it's not a nagging question. It's a valid question.
So maybe circling back, actually I have a real question. Circling back to the logger, is the logger now the so should we use the TD resource logger with so if we're developing components with the Gefahr of polluting your logs, or should we more use our own loggers?
I would suggest using the logger in the palette, because here you specify where you're logging to. So then it's project-based, component-based, yeah.
More questions to the heart of the TouchDesigner world.
Oh, there's one more.
There's one.
Just dreaming here, and maybe it wouldn't be performative anyway, but because you're developing the text-based formatting of TouchDesigner, would it be possible in the future to actually have Visual Studio know what kind of component movie file in one would be?
I mean, in the future,
everything is possible.
There still is this TD completes me component, which sometimes works, sometimes not, but it's more or less exactly what you're asking for, in that it is a direct language server. There's a web connection between TouchDesigner and VS Code, and when it works, it is perfect. When? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a really good question. I don't have the technical explanation of why this is currently complicated, but there will be more devs also in town in May. So if you want to have a proper technical explanation for that part, yeah. Come to the event.
It seems we have no more questions. Then I have a question, Wieland. I read that there is going to be a demo of the spatial audio system here. How is that all going to happen?
I would suggest asking Andrew in the first row, but in general the idea is to get rid of everyone in the space.
Yeah, we're going to take out some of the chairs. So if anyone wants to help us with taking out some of the chairs, and then we're just going to place the speakers which are already connected, and it shouldn't take very long. The hardest part is just going to be removing some of the chairs.
Do it.
Maybe important to add that it doesn't mean that you all have to leave. It's only about the chairs, right?
Where should they go? We're gonna get the rack.